Hello everyone, my name is Uthris, and welcome back to another episode of Kerbal Space Program. Today we are taking the Minmus Lufter MK1 out again, though we are attaching some more satellites. Satellites are going to be sent up around the moon and also Minmus, because I feel like I need to expand the communication network out to encompass kind of the whole local area. There's a couple of reasons for this. One, because I think it looks cool. That's reason number one. That's always the best reason to do anything in a game, is the role of cool. And we're also going to kind of use it as a fallback system in case the Kerbal network starts kind of failing in a way. So we're building this interior kind of truss system on top of a probe body and a control module there. So this will be a unmanned mission. I was thinking about having like some hinges, maybe like deploy some solar panels, or have a little bit more of an interesting feel to this. However, thinking on it, I felt like it was a little overcomplicated for what we're really doing, and that's just simply getting these to orbit and into position and at the correct kind of level that we want to get a decent amount of coverage. At some point I'm gonna have to start playing with the hinges and pistons in this game to really see kind of what we can do with them. But I felt like this was just a little too much. I can just use static panels and be done, because it's already folded up and pretty close to the body anyways. Adding a hinge was just over engineering at its finest. So we have all these satellites to hook up, and the nice thing is I really love the fact that I can make a module and then merge it into the current build, reroute it to the hard point, throw it on there, and just copy it up, and then you have your payload kind of just ready to go. And these satellite launches, I really think they're cool looking, because you get so much kind of just detail crammed into a small space from all the parts kind of jiving together like this. And the radar dishes pointing out in all these different types of angles is just a pretty neat little piece of tech. Didn't know how I wanted this to communicate back, so we just, at the top of the tower, make a fixed kind of relay point, and then we cover it all up in the fairing. So we'll be launching this fairly quickly. We'll go to the moon first, get them in position. Since all of these have their own thrusters and fuel tanks, we can actually get them into position themselves. So we'll just be using the uppermost stage to kind of bring it into the localized area, drop a few off, and then move on. So first stop is the moon, because we don't have to do anything fancy with our orbit. We just have to get there, and this craft is definitely good enough to get us there. I don't know what I'm doing here. I think I messed something up with the staging. Oh yes, it ran out of power. Of course, that's what happened. I left it on the pad. It didn't have access to solar panels, and things just ran out of power. So be careful when you're using probes and items that don't have a way to sit there on the launch pad for a long period of time. Ended up wasting some solid rocket booster fuel. I thought we could maybe get it up with just using those two, but at the end of the day, we had to turn on the main sail there and get us going. We're gonna accelerate pretty quickly through the lower bits of the atmosphere, not really worry about it. Start a rotation around 15,000 meters here, and just kind of follow that all the way over sideways. Our apoapse is already very, very high. I'm not used to the amount of thrust this mainsail engine can dish out just yet. Something that I need to kind of work on with my flight planning skills and ability to actually fly these things a little bit more correctly. and not be so wasteful with our fuel. So we'll go ahead and ditch that, light up the second stage. Although I guess technically this might be considered the third stage of the mission here. But we'll get the apps out towards the moon. Hopefully we get a decent intersect. And yes, we got our timing fairly good on this moon transit over here. And we'll just kind of come up to about a decent orbit around the moon. These don't need to be close to the moon by any point of the imagination. They can actually be kind of far out. And if they are far out, hopefully they can act as a decent relay point. We're still also, by the way, since we activated some of these satellites around Kerbin, we've been getting a little bit more science more frequently from Minmus. And in fact, this episode, we end up kind of finishing off that little ground base that we set up a couple episodes ago on the surface. So that thing will stop providing us science eventually, and we might have to think about getting another way to get science out to us. I really like how that thing bounces. It's so poorly configured. Like that whole strut in the middle that's supposed to be like holding all this weight is just not fully connected to the lower levels. It's pretty glorious. I don't know. I love the campiness of this game sometimes. So we'll just go ahead and keep our orbit roughly at the height that we want them to be, which is, I guess I'm choosing 300,000 kilometers around the moon. I'm going to change the angle a little bit. We're going to give it a nice 45, 30 degree angle on that orbital plane so that we can have some more interesting coverage, not necessarily around the moon, but so this relay point can be a little bit more useful also. Actually, our app ends up being about 1 million, it looks like. So we'll drop off 4 satellites there. Easy peasy. We'll make sure before we leave to extend the solar panels. We might even get them in position. I'm not sure if I do that at this specific stage, but we'll definitely need to at least extend the panels and their antennas, making sure they work and can, not die on us while they lie in wait in this eccentric orbit that they are sitting in currently. I just love the little design of these things. It's a very compact. I love compact kind of detail designs with this game. I think it's pretty great. So at this stage, we'll go ahead and burn over to Minmus because these satellites have to lie in wait for a little while anyways. And we can get our orbit kind of set here towards Minmus. And while we are extending some more panels so that craft doesn't run out of power, that would be good. We'll time warp out to the ascending node, I guess. It looks like I missed the time warp over to the descending node. But, the descending, ascending nodes, these things are great for marking out kind of where you need to burn most efficiently for getting your orbital planes in alignment to your targets. So use them as much as possible. I want to try and actually use this maneuver node to create a intersect with Minmus. However, I just kind of noticed after time warping and then going past it that it was trying to create this optimal maneuver node, and I don't know why it doesn't do it within an orbit. Because if I'm in a circular orbit around Kerbin or the moon or anything like that, Minmus should be at a pretty good window regardless. But I think it just tries to look for the most efficient way to get there, and it's not really necessary. So we'll go back to the satellites. We'll get these guys circularized around the moon. Look at that in the background. Nice to see it off at this height. I think this is a great height for satellites around this celestial body. So we'll just do a quick little burn, nothing too fancy here. Get that to a 0. And just like what we did with Kerbin, we will, just go around, make sure this is kind of configured in a decent way. Switch back to other satellites. warp over and just raise them up one at a time as they approach the Apple apps there. And it's just kind of rinse and repeat at this point, you know? And these type of missions, while they might be a little redundant or maybe not the most interesting missions, I find building up the infrastructure for your space agency to be an interesting goal when I play this game, because we're not making money off this kind of launch in the game, you know? We have, this actually costs us more money than anything. We're also not really gaining any science from this mission specifically, but I'm just hoping that, you know, this type of infrastructure is going to be good. Like, for example, eventually I do want to get a orbital station around Kerbin that we can not only do science processing with, but we can also do some refueling in low Kerbin orbit, so that we can kind of get crafts up into there, docked with it, refueled, and they're just kind of good to go. I like that concept. I like having this kind of gateway to the deeper solar system, and having an orbital station is just kind of cool, you know? And you can have them in different spots. You can have them just refueling stations in orbit. You can technically put one in orbit around the sun itself, or multiple, so that you can almost have fueling points that you're maintaining throughout the solar system, or you can have them around planets. I think planets or moons are the best location for these type of things, because you know the amount of stations you would need to put around the sun itself would be pretty high. So there's our communication network. You can see Minmus lighting up for a little bit as the communication that we left on the surface kind of hits the local area, which is pretty cool. And I'm getting a lot of satellite drift around Kerbin, which is a huge problem. Honestly, I'm surprised about how much satellite drift I'm getting. Their orbits were pretty close together. I mean, obviously not like down to the meter accurate, but I'm a little disappointed that I'm getting as much drift as I am in these satellites. So again, these are just going to serve a nice dual purpose, looking cool, and also somewhat functional to still get coverage from deeper space out back to our Kerbin friends. And doing this will also, I have a mission planned eventually to say go to Moho or Jewel. And to do those, we're going to need some more communication satellites, maybe even out there first. I might send some satellites out there, get captured into some orbits, or just transmit some generic science back for RP reasons before we actually start sending any Kerbals on those long journeys. Something I also need to do better at is just general planning for these type of things. I generally shoot from the hip, not only when I'm playing a game, but when I'm recording too. So I have 4 satellites here. In theory, I should be setting up like an orbit that's like a 1-to-4 ratio, so that the spacing becomes very even across these 4 satellites. I don't do that very well on any of these launches, so you know, I should really just bust out a calculator and do just some simple math, which is just divide by 4 in this case, to get a good spacing around Minmus. Right now, our Apple apps is still sitting at about 1 million miles above Minmus, which is decently there for its size and its gravity well. We'll circularize that, make sure that is good to go and configured. Great, and we'll just individually use each of these. Now, what I end up doing after getting these into position, I kind of noticed that there is a little bit of a gap between some of these, and we also don't really have much fuel left in the main probe that we sent out here carrying all these satellites. And as a solution to do on what to do with that leftover vehicle is I decided, well, it has a relay on it, so we might as well add it to the orbit of the rest of these. I'm just going around multiple times waiting for a decent space on this. So we end up having 5 satellites around Minmus, one of which has little bit of a bigger engine than the others, but that doesn't make it any less of a satellite, in my opinion. Actually, it's got plenty of fuel. I guess we just leave it out here anyways. I thought it had less fuel than that, but we got like almost 2,800 on it. But hey, we have it out here in case we need it. So with those established, you can see the communication network, all that green goodness being spread around. I check on the science kind of module down here to see if we transmitted all the data, which we have. And that's it. That's it for this mission. Nice, straightforward kind of satellite deployment again. If you guys enjoyed the episode, feel free to subscribe for more Kerbal goodness such as this. Hit that like button. Leave a comment down below on what planetary body you guys would like to see us go to soon. And we'll see you all in the next episode.